My name is Carla. I'm actually speaking to you from Switzerland. Well, currently I'm in Portugal. That's why I cannot be in Frankfurt. Otherwise, I would have made the journey. I'm a blockchain expert, and this led me to becoming the CEO of Core Technologies, a company that I have co-founded together with 4 other team members. But originally, I co-own another company, which is called Phoenix Systems, where I am board member today. And this is an infrastructure business. So let me explain a little bit. In general, my colleagues and me, we are building an IT company ecosystem or companies that complement each other into an IT ecosystem. And so Core Technologies specifically, the company that I'm heading, so now my presentation does not work. Yeah, here. Core Technologies, of course, built on IBM Linux ONE, as you can see in the picture, is a company that provides blockchain identities and assets. So in essence, we use Linux ONE machines to offer to our customers really blockchain solutions at scale. And this is not completely trivial because blockchain is not a technology that was initially built to scale. Of course, like the founders of Satoshi Nakamoto had in his backhand that it's going to be a scaling technology, but it has not been developed in this sense. It has been developed by individual peoples and not by large corporates. So in order to build a system that scales, you need hyperprotect infrastructure. And the good thing about this is that we already had a company which is called Phoenix Systems that is a cloud-based infrastructure company in Switzerland. I think now it's 12 or 13 years old. And basically our whole infrastructure is built on IBM Linux ONE. We used to have other servers before, but switched to IBM Linux ONE, I would say approximately 5 years ago. And we could reduce the space we are renting in these, data center spaces from, I think, 20 racks to 1 or 2. Now we have this in geo-redundancy, so we operate in 3 geolocations in Switzerland. And since IBM doesn't have a hyper-secure cloud or a Linux ONE cloud in Switzerland, we are basically the IBM cloud in Switzerland. So IBM often passes on clients our way if they really are looking specifically for a Linux ONE infrastructure. So in essence, if you listeners are for some regulatory reason or security reason of the impression that you need to have your data stored in Switzerland, we are your go-to persons. So basically, both companies are sister companies, and Phoenix Systems is providing the whole infrastructure stack for Core Technologies. And this is actually already our first USP. The fact that we can provide software and hardware from one hand, strongly intertwined, hyper-secure, generates unparalleled efficiencies and security. So this is really a unique selling proposition that we can offer. So what does now, since I'm the CEO of Core Technologies, I would like to show you a little bit what we have been able to implement thanks to this Linux ONE technology, so that you can grasp what kind of services you might be able to offer. And then the important thing for me is to explain why this had to go on Linux ONE rather than any other kind of server. So Core Technologies has created a whole end-to-end product suite. This is a graphic that shows a bit more technically what we are doing. I will become more concrete in my next slide. But in essence, we have created an issuance platform where we can, it's a toolbox of smart contracts for all all major blockchain protocols where we can tokenize any kind of assets as fungible token or as non-fungible token. Then once you have created a token, you need a place where you can store them. So of course, we also created a storage solution, which might be quite close to the solution that Philip has introduced before. In essence, well, you need to store them. You need to store them in a hyper-secure way. And this is, again, a place where Linux ONE is really relevant, because the Linux ONE infrastructure creates so-called trusted execution environments for every workload of every client that we have. That means that we, as your IT provider, are not able to access your digital assets. So no developer of mine is able to decide that he wants to go rogue and stop working and start living in the Bahamas together with your money, because it's simply for security reason not possible that he can access the digital assets that are stored in the Linux ONE servers. Thirdly, once you have issued a token and you know how to store it, you need to connect to have basically a tracker that connects your system to the blockchain protocol that you've chosen to use. So basically, it's a query and notification service that goes back and forth between the blockchain and your solution, so that you know that transaction really happened and have gone through, are not blocked. And so this is a very important key element. And then fourth, once you have all this, I mean, at some point you will need these assets to use them as a digital cash. So we've created payment systems to enable to pay in cryptocurrencies and maybe later in CBDCs, while using this validator, this crypto tracker that we call, and the storage solution. Now, this sounds a little bit complicated right now, but it gets easier when you show this concretely on a use case. So in essence, concretely, what we do is we create digital certificates, and this can be manifested in different industries. So a first use case, which is rather based on non-fungible tokens, is digital certificates, so NFTs, that create digital twins of a physical product, for example, a watch, a car, a house. And basically the token represents the authenticity certificate and the ownership proof that you really own a physical product. It's exactly the same for sovereign digital identities. So the digital identities, it's in the end, it's an NFT token, basically a digital representation of yourself that certifies that you are you, and a government function or a central party has testified that it has been controlled, that this token is really representing you. It's exactly the same technology, it's just two different things, whether you represent a person or a product. Yes. And then, so the third, let's say, area where we tokenize is, of course, financial assets. Then we are talking of fungible tokens rather than non-fungible tokens, which is, in essence, we tokenize commodities, we can tokenize real estate objects, we can tokenize company shares, whatever you want. And of course, because then it's not relevant to have non-fungible tokens, you can do this in fungible tokens and trade them. So what does this mean? Again, I cannot move forward. Yeah. If I'm looking at the luxury industry, one of the use cases is the digital twin. So this is a product solution that we have created especially for the luxury industry. And we have implemented this on watches right now. So in essence, you buy a new watch, and in this process of buying a new watch, you register yourself digitally, and you will get from the same watch brand also a digital token, which has the whole life cycle of the watch stored inside the token. And that means where it has been produced, and then some kind of unique identifiers, may it be a serial number or an NFC chip that can uniquely identify that these tokens belong to this specific physical good. And then you can add all kind of states to this NFT token, where you basically can say, my watch has been repaired, my watch has been revised, my watch has been stolen, or my watch has been lost. The idea would be that in the future, when you want to sell your watch or pass it on to somebody else, you would also transfer your token. Why would you do that? The token really represents your ownership proof. So if you, for example, lose your watch, you can show an insurance company that you are really the owner of this watch and it has been lost, and the status in the token has been set to lost, and that's why the insurance company has to refund you. Similarly, if your watch has been stolen, you set the status of your token to stolen, and basically the watch becomes unsellable on a secondary market. So this has various advantages and disadvantages. The biggest advantage for the luxury industry is that the watchmakers are sure to be able to contact the owners of their pieces also when the pieces have been bought on a secondary market. And this is super relevant. So yeah, this is in essence what we do in this area. So it's basically a non-fungible token, which is a digital twin of a physical product. Then we have a second use case, which I presented, which is the tokenization of financial assets. In essence, thanks to blockchain technology, any kind of person can become an investor in a peer-to-peer world in a few clicks. Now, as I said, one of our clients is a commodities exchange, and basically they have been trading palladium and copper. And now, with tokenizing it, instead of trading this physically, they trade it as tokens, and they have faster settlement times and a complete digital process. So this is a global client, and as you can imagine, we need high power, high intensity. This goes really fast. It needs to be hyper secure because we're talking about millions of euros that are transacted every day, and obviously it needs to be very safe and regulated. So this is BaFin or FINMA. FINMA is in Switzerland, BaFin in Germany. It's a fully regulated business, so it needs certain security levels, and so you cannot build this on some kind of infrastructure. It has to be hyper secure, and that's why the Linux ONE solution was exactly the right one. Now, funnily, this is an international client, the commodities exchange client, and it has one affiliation in Switzerland, and it has a sister company in the United States. Now, the company in the United States is SEC regulated, and obviously for regulation, they had to have their data in the United States. So, but we operate data centers in Switzerland. So what we did, and this is something you can do as well as a young company, is we opened basically a hypersecure Linux ONE infrastructure digitally through IBM in the United States with 2 geolocations in Washington and in Dallas. And we are operating this infrastructure out of Switzerland for this client in the United States in the IBM Cloud in the United States. Fully hyper secure and in the most effective way that's possible. So I can really recommend this. The setup was relatively uncomplicated, and we were up to speed within a few weeks. So I would say if you plan in 4 to 6 weeks to really have this up and running in the way you want to have it, this is completely feasible. Yeah. So I'm going to skip that slide. Basically, I said a client can onboard, or an investor can onboard within a few minutes to invest into a digital asset. So that would be a glimpse of an investor flow. Basically, an investor registers, he passes KYC, he transfers funds with our digital cash solution, and then sees his tokens in a dashboard. So it's very streamlined process, and everything is integrated with tokens that you create, a wallet where you hold them, and then a crypto tracker that makes sure that all transactions are done on the blockchain and mirrored into this solution that we have built. So I talked already quite a lot about Linux One machines. We have strategically decided to use these. It is an incredible, attractive USP. Many banks in Switzerland exclusively say this is the only infrastructure that they want to work on. I hear this quite a lot, and custody solutions in general that serve any kind of blockchain asset, they are all betting on this solution. So if you are thinking about entering blockchain business, it's basically the go-to thing to do. Yeah, I think I'm going to skip this. Funnily, Philip has talked about his blockchain protocol, or protocol that he has built, or his company has built on top of the like, let's say, layer 1 protocols. It seems that many companies tend to go into the same direction. Also, we have created our own blockchain protocol based on Hyperledger Besu. Consensus mechanisms, basically it's a fully Ethereum compatible blockchain. The situation is that if we talk about large corporates, they can't really handle layer 1 blockchains. They don't want to buy tokens, they don't want to set gas fees, they don't want to manage and check if their transactions have gone through. They don't want to be in a situation that happened, for example, this weekend, where Solana was down for 7 hours. So they cannot really bet on a blockchain that might be congested and doesn't work or is down or whatever, and they can't do anything about this. So you really need to offer to a corporate client with high transaction levels a super efficient, almost real-time blockchain solution that is not mining blocks every few minutes, but ideally every second, and that has foreseeable transaction fees. That's essential, because a large corporate normally has a yearly budget, and then it's fixed. Like, let's say we want to spend 1 million in transaction fees, and then if suddenly transaction fees goes up, it's not like you can just get a new budget because you say we are blocked, we cannot do any transactions anymore. So we have created the Dragonfly blockchain, which is a proof of authority blockchain only operated by validators who all operate on IBM Linux ONE. And therefore, this is hyper secure blockchain that is certified and operated really by trustworthy validators. And this is, again, a unique selling proposition to our clients, because basically whatever solution they mandate from us, they get the blockchain on top, and they have a carefree solution where they don't have to really manage this whole blockchain technology, because it's done for them on a hyper secure protocol. So as you can see, it brings a lot of advantages to bet on this solution. I hope I was able to show you a little bit the extent of what is possible and what advantages it brings. And I would say I'm, of course, open for questions, and we should slowly but surely go over to the panel discussion and answer your questions.